looking down here at the allotment, you can see, you know, these broad beans, these have been sitting in here for probably since about October, November time. Now what you do is you put them in and they come up about this high, you know, by the end of the year generally. Then they stop once the hard frosts start to come, and then what they do is just sit there over the winter period, and then normally around now when the weather gets warmer, certainly into April, they then start to grow. And the old wives' tale is, if you do them this way, you then get the crop before the black fly comes. Now, some people believe this is true, and as I've stated before, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do give them the benefit of the doubt, and I really do like it when you've got something in the beds over the winter period, because it can make you a bit despondent if you come down here, oh, my beds are all empty, all I can see is a few weeds. But certainly nice to just see something underway. And one thing I like about broad beans is when you start to get the flowers. Now, there's no sign of any flowers directly yet, although some little things here that one could say could turn into flowers at a later date. Now, sometimes even when these plants are small, they do indeed get flowers on them. And broad beans, I recommend people grow these, but what I have stated before is that people grow dwarf varieties. Broad beans can get rather large. I have grown them before. I think the tallest broad bean plant I have grown, it probably got to around 6 or 7 foot high. That was including the pot that I had one in, but what I did was I grew it up against a south-facing wall, and the wall obviously got very warm because of the catalyst. The bricks hold the warmth from the sun, and of course the plant likes that. So what happened was the plant proceeded to grow very large. But in the ground, if you've got, you know, tall and spindly broad bean plants, what can happen is the wind can blow them over. Of course you can tie them up, but I like dwarf varieties because a lot of them are self-supporting, so that way, unless of course you get massive winds or a deer or something goes straight through them, you know, it's unlikely they're going to fall over. So dwarf varieties are good. Of course you tend to get lesser crops from a dwarf variety than you do from a full-size variety, but certainly with regards to lower maintenance, I do recommend people grow dwarf varieties of broad bean. Man, look at that rhubarb. Now, this rhubarb is absolutely fantastic, and I just love rhubarb because of the sort of traditional things associated with it. The rhubarb crumble, the rhubarb and apple pie. One of my viewers mentioned before, I think it was rhubarb and ginger jam. I mean, they just sound absolutely beautiful, don't they? And it thrives in the UK climate. And I believe this is also quite popular in India. Please, if there's anyone watching my channel in India, please let me know down below in the comments section. But I believe rhubarb is very popular in parts of India, so that's interesting to know as well. But and also one of my favourites, of course, rhubarb and custard sweets, some tiny little sweets. Delicious they are. And now you can even get rhubarb tea, I believe. You can purchase that from a supermarket, of course, make your own. So another good thing about it. And I think the best thing about rhubarb is the fact that you get it so early in the season. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether it's classed as a vegetable or as a fruit, but definitely tends to be used more of a fruit, you know, like in a pie or something. But one way that I like it is simply just boiled up normally or steamed and put a nice bit of honey with it, mix it up like that, and I think that's absolutely delicious. That is, of course, nice with brown sugar, etc. as well. But let's have a look through here, and the crowns. Let's have a look what we've got. Now, let's pull one up. Didn't really want that bit, but never mind. Yeah, look at that. Now, generally, I would rather them be a bit bigger than this, but might pick a few like these, and I might proceed to boil them up, have them with a bit of honey tonight. But I do like it because you mustn't eat the leaves though, because they're poisonous. But so that to there, nice stalk, and all the nutrients in there. And you know, if you think, what other fruit like crop, so to speak, is available at this time of year? You know, you've got to wait a long time before you get your gooseberries yet, and certainly a long time before plums and apples. But this looks Just a nice looking, beautiful plant really. Let's have another one. I'm trying to find a decent size one because I don't want to pick them too early, but normally if I only had a few of these plants, I would you know, I'd leave them a bit longer, but in a moment I'll show you just how much there is here of this rhubarb. So I'm not worried about running out of rhubarb. Yeah, so you can see how much there is here, and we're still in March, so a massive crop here already, and loads more to go, and these will get very long. I mean, some of them can get about 2 to 3 feet long, the stalks, so that's very good indeed. And there are two varieties here, Timpani Early and Pink Champagne, and quite often you can buy the crowns. You can even get them from the budget places now. Buy a couple of crowns, and in a few years, you know, they will self-propagate, and you can end up with some beautiful rhubarb such as this. So this is one method you can employ in order to get fruit really early in the season. So rhubarb, if you like it that is a definite must, and I don't believe it's the cheapest thing to buy in the supermarket. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I haven't purchased it for a very long time now because I don't need to, but sometimes I have a look when I'm in there. So yeah, you want to look about saving a little bit of money with regards to growing some of your own fruit. Rhubarb, very versatile thing to grow and very, very tasty indeed. What we can do is go back now and we can talk a little bit about some fruit trees. Okay, so here we are in the polytunnel, and what we're going to do first is have some tea. What we're doing is taking some cuttings. Now, these, if you checked out my last video I put up on taking cuttings, are from a red currant bush, variety John Keir Van Tetz. I believe that's how you say it. And they really are beautiful. Now, with regards to rooting cuttings, you can do them any time whilst the plant is dormant. So that's generally around from November up until now. Of course, it depends on where you live and what the climate's like, but generally in the dormant season is the rule. And you can get away with it if you do it now, if you take them now. So that's one reason why I'm showing you it. So take a look at this. Now, what you need is a piece of last year's growth. So if you take a look at that, you can see that will have been from the year previous, and where the new growth starts there, that will have been a piece of last year's growth, and one here. Now, one thing I like about red currants is if you look, buds there are red, so very nice indeed. So what we're going to do, I'll show you how I like to take cuttings. Now, what I've got down here is, this is basic potting compost, basic multi-purpose compost, and this is readily available. Although for taking cuttings, interestingly, such as these, you can actually do them in normal garden soil. So if you can't afford that compost, or you can't get hold of it, but you've got some soil, you can use that. But one reason why I like to use this is because it's been treated, or whatever they do to it, sieved, whatever, so hopefully you won't get any weeds in it. So what you do is you get your pot like this. You know, as big as, you know, reasonably can take, or you can get, so about that size. And what I do is I put a little bit of my compost in here, fill it up like that, just like that. And what you do is you get your cutting, where's my secateurs, there, and what I like to do is, so you look at the amount of buds you've got. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I like to have about 3 or so below the ground. So what I'm going to do, the other bit's going to fall on the floor. I'm just going to snip here. Okay, now these aren't the best secateurs, these ones. These are my spares, because my other ones are somewhere else. But it doesn't matter, because this should be enough. Actually, no, fuck that. Discard that. I'll go and get my other ones. In fact, no, we've got to carry on with them because the other ones are still indeed somewhere else. You look at your cutting there, and so you can see the buds. 1, 2, 3, and there's about 3 or 4 above. So what I'm going to do is proceed to put 3 buds below the ground. And what will happen is the buds below will proceed to root and the ones above will leaf out, and over the next few years it will then grow up into a beautiful John Keir Van Tet's red currant plant, which is very good indeed. And you can do that with gooseberries and black currants and white currants as well. This is white currant, and that is White Versailles. That's the variety. I do like white currants. Tend to be a bit sweeter than the other currants. Of course, black currants make you think of Ribena, don't they? Red currants, you've got red currant jam, red currant jelly, and white currants, beautiful sweet taste. And I believe during World War II they were very popular when it wasn't as easy to get sweets during the war due to whatever reason. They were consumed a lot for sweets from children. I don't know if there's anyone out there who's viewing my channel that was around during that time. Can you remember? So yeah, that's that one there. You may remember from that video that I took a load of cuttings from a grapevine variety Muscat Blanc. Now, it's a great variety for growing in the UK. The grapes are a nice purpley, dark purple colour with, they've got pips in, seeds, whatever, but they really are nice and they thrive in this climate. If you check out my grape playlist, you will see the vine in all its glory a few years ago, just how much of a crop you can get off of it. So definitely a good variety to grow in the UK, Muscat Blanc. So with regards to taking grapevine cuttings, so you need a piece of last year's growth again, and what you do, see, this is ridiculous, you really need, I've got a great pair of secateurs, I've got a pair of Felcos, but they're somewhere else. I can't access them at the moment. So these are like the tendrils that the vine puts out to latch onto things, so you don't really want them on. So I'm going to use one pot, and I'm going to take several cuttings from that in one pot. I'm using multi-purpose compost, but you can use garden soil if you want, but same as the current cutting, I am using multi-purpose compost. And the rule I generally use is 2 buds above and 2 buds below. And what you do, what I like to do is cut the end one off, because often it's sort of dry and doesn't look great. So buds, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I like to do is make a nice cut below the bottom bud. So there you go. You can see if you're taking it from what I call a strip like this bit, it's not really going to do anything. So what I do is cut it just above like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to try a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to go 1 bud below and 1 above. 2 buds below and 1 above. 2 below and 2 above. What happens is if you have too many, I've done this before, the roots will intertwine because grapes grow very vigorously. You don't want too much of that, and of course they all need water. So what we're going to do is fill up these pots here with compost. So 2 buds below and 2 buds above, and this one again, where are we? 2 buds below and 2 buds above. Now what is true of these cuttings, and it sounds very funny, but you need to ensure you set them the way in which they are growing. Of course you want them to be going the right way up. So let me give you an example of this. This is another red currant one, okay? So you can see what way up that's growing. Alright, that's your growing tip, and looking at that you can just see where I cut it, okay? Don't go setting it like that, because obviously it won't work, because the plant likes to grow up, not grow down. So set it the right way up, which is the direction in which it would grow generally, so going the way it's growing. So there we go, we've done that. But let's say you don't want to spend 10 to 20 pounds on a grapevine, you just want to take a cutting like that, like this, and your friend or whoever has one, and you just go, yep, I want a cutting. Follow these instructions, and within the next few years you can have your own vine that you've acquired more or less for free. It's only cost you a bit of your time and maybe a pot and a bit of compost. So yeah, with your freshly taken cuttings, and indeed as the season progresses, you want to ensure that they stay moist, because obviously they're going to try to root and they need water. So you want to keep them moist, and you don't want them in full sun either. A little bit of sun, but not full sun. Now, I do have some cuttings down here in the polytunnel, and when it gets very warm, I will put them outside. I've only got them down there at the moment because there's a bit of space. I've watered them, and it's really not warm enough to get very hot in here. So at the moment, it's not a problem. But yeah, make sure they stay moist throughout the season, and have them in a place that is not too sun bearing, not too hot, and then they should manage to root readily. So what we're going to talk about now is sweet peas, or our sweet peas, variety special mixed. I set these probably about three weeks, a month ago. I have got a video on it, but they look good actually. Now, they were a bit spindly, but they're starting to thicken up. Now, I initially brought them on in the propagators, you know, because some people say that sweet peas are tricky to propagate, but I've been very lucky. So I'll show you another sweet pea. But this I did straight in here, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe a tad longer, you can see they've managed to achieve this much growth in that amount of time. So variety old-fashioned. So down here we have more sweet peas, variety singing the blues. And once again, these have been in about 3 to 4 weeks, and they're doing very well as well. More sweet peas here, Perfume Duet Grandiflora, and they look good as well. Now, aren't these marvellous? Now, I purchased some of these, most of them in fact were from Mr. Fothergill's, although some of them I got from Amazon, and I cannot remember who I bought them from, but never mind. Now, this is Mr. Fothergill's Geranium Maverick Quicksilver F1 Zonal Pelargonium. So that's from, they are the Quicksilver from there to there. And here we have got more Maverick here, looking good here. Now this here is Geranium Quantum Mixed from here to here. And the final one is again quantum mixed. So from the Mr. Fothergill's, we've done very well actually. We've got 100% germination rate here, absolutely fantasticus. And here from these other ones, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 6, 12 out of 15. No, another one coming up there. Maybe they're a bit behind, but that's not the end of the world. So geraniums there. Now I set these ones a little bit later. Spin it round. Now, what have we got here? We've got Geranium Divas, and these came from, guess where? Mr. Fothergill's, from there to here. And here I have got Geranium Horizon White, and so far only one has come up. Maybe the reason why these have not germinated yet is because they've been out here where it's obviously cooler, and they will germinate later. But even so, I'm very happy indeed with how the geraniums have done. So very happy indeed growing geraniums from seed. Bitter melons. Now, I've got a lot of videos on this subject, bitter melons. So people find these a rather interesting concept to grow here in the UK, because they're not normally grown in the UK. But you can purchase them from, you know, Asian markets, Asian shops, market stalls in general, and probably certain supermarkets in places. But the bitter melon, now there's a lot of science about this. There is a belief that they are very good for the sufferers of diabetes, for lowering blood sugar. So there is a reason to grow these, and with regards to purchasing the seeds, you can quite often find them. If you look on Amazon, you look on eBay, you can generally find them. So just put in bitter melon seeds and sites will come up and you can purchase them. So, but if you're going to eat these, you need to do a bit of research first, because there's certain people that shouldn't eat them, and you need to know whether it's suitable for you to eat these, the produce resulting from these seeds. So do your research before you eat them. But yeah, looking at them, they're quite an interesting looking seed. Let's see if I can get them out. Look at that. An intriguing looking seed. There, look. So these are very often grown in Southeast Asia, warmer parts of the US, the Caribbean, and they can be used in many dishes as well. Stir fries, and there's all sorts of Filipinos cook them with eggs, I think. You know, so many different things that you can grow with these, and they're like a knobbly cucumber, and they're generally referred to in English as the bitter melon. The bitter gourd is another name. You know, languages do have their own name for them, and they're worth growing. So the way that I like to grow these, now you've got to remember that these generally favour warm climates, so I wouldn't really advise anybody to, you know, just stick them in any old how. I like to use a windowsill propagator, and I've had a lot of success with these in the past, so I'll show you the method in which I use. So same again, got the compost here. I like it in my the bucket here, and I just get my little thing out the propagator like that, and I like to make sure that that's nice and fine, the compost. Now with regards to the compost, because of where these are normally grown, you don't want to be plunging the seeds into really cold compost. In fact, I like to use that as a rule in everything I grow. I don't like to just plunge seeds into cold compost, because you know, I wouldn't like to be plunged into a cold bath, so why would a seed like to be plunged into cold compost? So I've had this in the shed overnight just to make sure that it gets a little bit of, just a little bit of warmth to it. I'll put that in there. Now I've got 12 seeds that I need to get going, so I'm going to put them in here like this. These windowsill propagators are absolutely brilliant. I spoke a lot about these, but you know, I really recommend that people get some of these and you know, keep them clean from year to year and reuse them. So I'm going to get my seeds out like this. So if you're from like an Asian background, Caribbean background, you probably eat these regularly in your own culture, and you might come over here and wonder whether you can grow them. So you can. So the way that I put them in, you've got your seed like that, look, and I like to put them in, what is it they call that, horizontally, isn't it, on the side. I put them in about like this. Doesn't that rain sound lovely on the top of the Polytunnel? Especially when it's mixed with the bird song. So bitter melons, when they fruit, they look like a knobbly cucumber almost. They are an acquired taste, but I like them. And just for a bit of variety. So I put them in like that, and what I then do, just for simplicity, is I come back over to the compost here, and I simply cover the top up with the compost like that. That's not what you do. You want to have your lid on really with these, even if you're germinating them inside, because they like a germination temperature of around 20 to 25 degrees. Of course, if you're over a radiator, it's going to, you know, really get warm if your windowsill's there and your radiator's there. But so that goes on there. And what you want to do when you water them is you water them with tepid water, slightly warm water. Obviously not boiling, but scald them. But just a little bit of warm water. So you want to do that. And probably within a week, 10 days, they will germinate. So this is going to go inside on the windowsill, and when they germinate, I'll show you what they look like. So I planted these probably about 3 weeks ago, and this is kale. Now kale is one of my favourite brassicas, and this is variety Dwarf Green Curled. And there are different varieties of kale. You can get curly ones like this, ones that look more like a cabbage leaf. A very nutritious crop, not too difficult to grow, but make sure that you cover it up during the summer months so that it does not get cabbage white butterfly, because we all know what that can lead to. Got videos on it. So yeah, if I could only grow one brassica, so a brassica would be something you think of as a cabbagey plant. So you would say Brussels sprouts, purple sprouting broccoli, and they are absolutely beautiful plants. And they taste really nice as well, and you can use them in so many dishes. Well, I like them boiled up and have them with apple cider vinegar, one of my favourites. So yeah, kale is a great plant to grow. I have a peach tree, variety Dixie Red. Now this is an American variety, and growing peaches in the UK, and indeed similar climates, can be very challenging, but with the right approach you can have a beautiful tree and beautiful crops. Now, as you can see, this is growing within a polytunnel, and the reason why I've got it in the polytunnel, the greenhouse would do as well, is simply because I don't want it to get peach leaf curl. Now I've spoke a lot about this in the past, but it's very important indeed that people are aware of peach leaf curl, because more often than not it can lead to death of your peach or your nectarine tree, which you really don't want. And this tree was around 30 something pounds, and of course, you know, you lose your investment in the tree, and it can be it is indeed very frustrating. So peach leaf curl occurs when the plant gets wet during the winter months, and then the tree proceeds to get wet with rain. So of course that's going to happen, isn't it? So looking at this here, it's got some beautiful pink blossom on it, and this variety is self-fertile, which is very important when you're growing in a polytunnel or greenhouse where bees, pollinating insects, cannot get into it. So this will mean that this will produce fruit on its own pollen. It is stated that a little shake like this sometimes helps the pollen move around the flower, just to help it you know, get the pollen in the flower there. Of course, when the wind blows, the polytunnel moves and then the plant moves. But you want to have one that's self-fertile if you're going to grow it inside. And of course, I've had people ask me before, will it be a problem if the tree gets too big for the polytunnel? Well, yes, it could get a problem, but I intend to prune it to make sure that it doesn't get too big for in here. And this tree spent its first life with me in a pot, and it did very well. I had a growing medium in there that the plant did well in, calcified seaweed, manure, etc. I think there was compost in there and garden soil, but I've got a video on that, how to grow peaches in pots, I believe. But it did very well in that pot and had about 30 or 40 peaches on it in the first year, and then the second year I put it in the ground here. That was last year, and this did very well as well. So I'm very happy with this tree, and they're a lovely, beautiful, sweet taste. And again, if you want to add a little bit of exotica to your polytunnel or greenhouse, the peach could be a way of doing it. So yes, you can grow peaches here in the UK. There are other methods as well. If you only have a small courtyard garden, there is a method that you can use as well. You can grow your peach tree in a pot, and then during the winter months you can proceed to move that pot inside a shed or, you know, a garden building, but it mustn't be warm, because they need a period of winter chill, peach trees and nectarines do, in order to fruit the following year. It's something that they require, just as a lot of tropical fruits require a dry season. So yeah, you've got your pot, you've got your tree, your peach or your nectarine in a pot, so you have your summer, and then when the tree loses its leaves, put it in a shelter, and then take it out again in the spring, and that way you should avoid peach leaf curl. Another option that you've got is to grow it outside up against a south-facing wall or fence, and then you can proceed to cover the tree up during the winter months with some polythene or a curtain, or not a net curtain, but plastic, something like that, so it doesn't get wet. But you do not want your peach tree to get wet during the winter months. And I'm a little bit even funny about this tree. I don't want any water going on the leaves or anything even during the summer months, because I want this tree to do well. So this is a beautiful peach tree, done well the last 2 years. Hopefully it's going to do well this year.